Egypt is a country with a very rich history, incredible food, and so much to see and do. Naturally then, it's on a lot of people's bucket lists. At the same time though, you only need a quick Google or YouTube search to find stories of scams, harassment, and negative experiences that people have had whilst visiting the country. So in this video, having visited the country very recently and gotten to know it quite well, I'm going to share my top tips with you for how to enjoy Egypt, not overpay for things, and reduce the amount of stress on your visit there. Let's get right into it. So our trip began in Hurghada, which is a city on the Red Sea, very popular for tourism, holidays, and snorkeling. So we spent 5 days there with a day trip to Luxor included as well, which we'll talk about as we go through the video, before spending 3.5 days in the capital city of Cairo. Overall, I really enjoyed visiting Egypt. I had a very positive experience, I would say, of being in the country, though I saw and understand why it's not for everybody and why some people find the experience of visiting Egypt to be quite stressful and as a result come away with a negative overall perception. And whilst I don't want to be totally dismissive of these negative experiences, I think that some of them can be managed or have come from a place of maybe not understanding or not planning adequately when visiting Egypt. And so that's what I plan to do as we go through this video. Before you even book flights, a hotel, plan a visit to Egypt, you got to decide what it is that you want to get out of that visit to Egypt. Because honestly, it offers a whole load of different things for different people who are looking naturally for different things in their holiday. And there's honestly no one right answer to this question. But if you really want to get the most out of your visit to Egypt, then it's definitely not a place where you can just jump on a plane, arrive, and then when you're there, start thinking about what you want to do. Because you'll get there and you'll realize just how much there is to do. And as a result, you could end up leaving thinking, what if I'd done this? Or if I'd thought this through a bit better, it would have been great to see or do that. Like, for example, there's some people who really want to enjoy the historical aspect of Egypt, like visit the pyramids or Luxor or cities like Alexandria, Abu Simbel, Aswan. There's perhaps a group of people who really want to just experience everyday life in Egypt, try the food, get to know the culture and immerse themselves in that. And there's people as well who are just perhaps looking for that beach or that resort, all-inclusive kind of holiday as well. And so because there's so much to do, you can definitely mix elements of that as well. Like, for example, in Hurghada, there's tour companies that will offer day trips to Luxor. For example, we did a day trip to Luxor, but it's a very long day. You're looking at probably 14-15 hours, early wake up, a 4-hour bus ride there and back, as well as going around all of the important touristic sites as well. And there's even companies doing Cairo trips as well, which is probably like a full 24 hours as well. And so someone who's come with the idea of a beach holiday, for them to be organizing multiple day trips to different parts of Egypt is probably not what they had in mind. It's probably going to be quite tiring, quite logistically challenging as well. At the same time as well, if you booked a flight to Cairo and you want to experience the Red Sea, like in Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada, then again, it's doable, but again, perhaps a bit logistically complex to do. And so that's why I say, really think about what you want to get out of the trip before you go and set your expectations early. And prioritize what you do want to do and don't want to do as well. Because in Cairo, there's so much to do, like the pyramids, like different museums, like day trips to other parts of Egypt. So before you even book that trip, think what is exactly you want to get out of it. Prioritize what are the key attractions or things that you want to do while you're in Egypt, and it will make the trip so much easier logistically as well. Now, in my opinion, really important as part of the logistical planning as well is to choose a good hotel. Because having seen both Hurghada and Cairo, I can tell you that Egypt in general is quite a chaotic place to be, particularly downtown Cairo, especially Giza, even the city center and Corniche area of Hurghada. It's pretty chaotic in terms of traffic and what's going on in those areas. So I think choosing a good place to stay that's kind of away from the chaos as well will really give you the opportunity to have proper downtime, relax, disconnect, and then the next day, go back into it and really enjoy, a bit of relaxation whilst you're in Egypt as well. Because that's really important, especially if you're doing a beach or resort holiday. That's what you come to do, to relax, to get some downtime. And even if you're doing the adventurous stuff, like visiting different sites of Cairo, going on day trips, etc., that's going to be quite hectic and physically demanding as well. So you do want to have a nice place to just kind of kick back, relax a little bit, and step away from the busyness and the chaos. And so a couple of recommendations based on where we stayed. So we stayed in the Hilton Plaza in Hurghada. Very nice hotel with a pool, private beach. And then in Cairo, we stayed in the Maadi neighborhood, which is a little bit south of downtown Cairo and a little bit less busy, I would say. Still quite hectic. You know, we had a view over the Nile, but we could see all of the traffic going along. But still, yeah, probably a lot less hectic than other spots in downtown Cairo. Alright, next section of the video now, talking about a couple of other travel logistics to keep in mind that will make your trip easier as well. Now, for people watching this video who are from the United States, the UK, an EU member country, for example, and a whole number of other countries as well, Egypt essentially has an e-visa or visa on arrival program available. Now, there's two key options. The first option is a single entry visa, so lets you come into Egypt once on that visa, which is valid for up to 30 days and costs $25. And the second option is a multi-entry visa, which allows you to come in and out of Egypt, spending up to 90 days in the country over a 6-month period for $60. Now, if you're staying in Sharm el-Sheikh, Dahab, Taba, or Nuweiba, then this visa program doesn't apply to you unless you're going to spend more than 15 days. So for stays of 15 days or less, you can stay in any one of these 4 cities visa-free, essentially. And if you're going to travel to another city in Egypt as well from one of those cities, then again, you'll need the e-visa or the visa on arrival. So the visa on arrival is essentially that when you arrive in Egypt at the airport, you're going through immigration. Well, before you get to immigration, you will pay the fee in cash for your visa. Or alternatively, if you want to save a bit of time and speed up the logistics of things, which is what we did, I would recommend this as well, because it pretty much meant that when we arrived in Egypt, we skipped the lines of people paying cash to get their visa, went straight to the front and through passport control, is you can do it online in advance. So there's a website called Visa to Egypt, which is the official government site, which I'll put the link in the video description for. And typically within a period of 7 days of submitting your application, you'll get a response as to whether it's been approved or not. The currency in Egypt is the Egyptian pound, and I definitely recommend paying in Egyptian pounds where possible. Now, there's 2 ways to get hold of Egyptian pounds. One is exchanging foreign currency at ATMs, which I'll show you how that works in the video. Essentially, you can bring any major currency, whether it's US dollars, pounds, euros, etc. And if you go to an ATM in Egypt that has Forex enabled, you can simply introduce your banknotes. The bank will give you the exchange rate. Normally it's pretty close to the market rate as well, and it will give you the equivalent in Egyptian pounds that you can then spend in Egypt. The Egyptian pound is a restricted currency as well, so it's difficult to get hold of outside of Egypt. The alternative as well is using a multi-currency card like Wise or Revolut, for example. You can also spend in Egyptian pounds there and pay in local currency. So I used Wise in some cases to pay for a few items in Egyptian pounds. I'll put a link in the video description for Wise. It's an affiliate link in case you're interested. Really handy. You can also withdraw cash with Wise as well when you're traveling abroad. Because whilst you can pay in some places in USD, in euros, or possibly British pounds as well, restaurants and shops will essentially add on a surcharge for that foreign currency essentially. And they might sometimes take advantage of you if you're paid in a foreign currency as well. So that's why I say always pay in Egyptian pounds where possible. All right, now we're getting into a section of the video where I'm sure that you guys are gonna comment about and share your experiences and tell me if you agree with me or not through this. This is all to do with the idea of what is normal, what is not normal, what is expected, and what is a scam in Egypt, essentially. So if you look at stories and videos online, one of the most common things that people will share is that someone has helped them out, or they've offered to take them somewhere, or they've offered them a camel ride, for example, and then afterwards they will expect money and sometimes get annoyed, angry, or even aggressive if the person doesn't want to give them money or doesn't give them what they were hoping for in terms of money. And so from speaking with other Egyptians, friends, or people I met during the trip, Egypt does have a bit of a tip culture, kind of like the US in a sense, where gratuities and tips are somewhat expected, but not compulsory, essentially. So depending on where you are, like maybe a restaurant, for example, maybe a taxi driver, for example, you know, if nothing goes wrong and all goes well, they might expect a tip and be grateful if you give them a tip. If someone is like helping you with directions, or maybe they're helping you with your bag or something like that, it's probably expected that you tip them, even though it's not compulsory. But that said, I have seen some ridiculous circumstances where people are expecting tips as well. Like, for example, we were on a desert safari and given like a very basic breakfast, and someone was like, a tip for the chef, and then they let my wife feed like the horses or something, and they asked for a tip for letting her feed the horses. And then after that I was like, mate, come on, like that's a bit too far. But if you don't want to tip, you technically don't have to, but then if they start getting aggressive as well, then you can always call the police to help diffuse the situation and to make them go away. What is also a common story in places like Egypt is that there are a lot of sellers in markets and tourist sites trying to sell you stuff, and they can get quite aggressive as well. Again, you're not obliged to buy from these people. Just don't make eye contact with them, ignore them, and keep moving on. Just keep moving on with purpose. Look like you're busy, like you know where you're going. But tell them no as well in Arabic. If you stay till the end, I'll give you some useful Arabic phrases that will help you in Egypt as well. Because by simply ignoring them or shutting them down if they get pushy, they'll normally just leave you alone. Alright, so I've literally just watched the first edit, and I'm jumping in with this because there's something really important that I want to mention as well that I forgot to say in the original video, which is related to tours and how they're run. Now, I think in general, it's good to go with a tour guide because they can give you a lot of insight, a lot of knowledge, and it can kind of act as a barrier, as a shield to some of those aggressive sellers that I mentioned. But as part of these tours, what you'll often find, which technically I suppose is not a scam, but it can feel a little bit uncomfortable or like a bit of an obligation, is that sometimes these tours will stop by particular shops, for example for essential oils, for maybe alabaster jars, maybe for spices, for example, as well. And we experienced these on like the day trips we did as well. Now, at the end of the day, no matter where the tour guide takes you or what the shop owner or the salesperson says or makes you feel, you're technically not obliged to purchase or buy anything. Like in our case, spices, oils, they're practical things, like you can put them to use. You know, they're not essential purchases, but if you do want them, you can use them. Whereas like alabaster jars and decor, okay, yeah, it makes a nice ornament, but you know, are you realistically going to use something like that? So it's really just to tell you that if you're booking a guided tour, be aware that that could happen, because I think sometimes the tour companies and these stores have somewhat of an agreement in place to try and, you know, improve business on both sides. But just to tell you that. Now back to the main video. Be careful when using a camera as well in Egypt. It's illegal to take photos of people without their permission. It's also illegal to import like professional recording equipment without a proper permit to do so. That's why a lot of the footage that you'll see in this video actually wasn't done on the camera I'm recording on now. It was done on an iPhone. Just because I'd heard stories of people having their equipment confiscated. And whilst I did see people with, you know, like normal cameras taking photos and stuff, you know, I didn't want to take any risks with my camera getting confiscated or whatever. So that's the reason for that. And drones, big no-no in Egypt. You cannot import drones into Egypt. You can't travel with them as well. If you do enter Egypt with a drone, I understand that it will be essentially confiscated or held by customs until it's time for you to go home, at which point you can claim it back. But again, I wouldn't want to go through that situation. So again, just leave it at home to avoid the hassle. What you will most likely come across in Egypt that is scammy, and is what I mentioned in the previous section as well, is getting overcharged or paying the tourist premium or the tourist tax essentially on stuff that should not be that expensive. Like I said, a restaurant charging you more because you want to pay in US dollars or euros or something. If you're at a market or at a store, you know, like they might give you a much higher price because you're a tourist. Taxi drivers is a big one to watch out for, because we definitely overpaid in the taxi from the airport in Hurghada to our hotel. And so this brings me into a nice segue into the getting around part of this video, essentially, because I'm going to tell you the different apps that are available to use, and I'll tell you which one we used and what I would recommend while we're here. So assuming you're not going with like a pre-arranged transfer or private transfer, then there's 3 apps essentially where you can book a ride to wherever it is you're going. You have Uber, you have Careem with a C, and you have InDrive. I didn't try Uber, we tried Careem, and I used InDrive, and InDrive was the one I used the most. Now the reason I didn't use Uber or Careem is the following. So that first taxi we took from the airport to the hotel, we booked it with Careem. The taxi driver wrote to us through the app saying 15 euros from the airport to the hotel. I had done a quick Google search and Google said, yes, that's a fair price. So I said, okay, fine. And the taxi driver said, okay, great, I'll cancel the ride. At the end, we paid the fare we agree on, so that was all okay. But then let me just tell you that on the way back, I used InDrive, and with InDrive, we paid, I think it was 3 euros to come back to the airport. So clearly that taxi driver knew that he was charging above what the reasonable price was to get from the airport to the hotel, which was about a 30-minute drive on both trips as well, by the way. And then a similar story happened a second time I tried to use Careem. Like the fare should have been like 50 Egyptian pounds or 60 Egyptian pounds to go somewhere, which is like 1 euro basically. And then the taxi driver again wrote to me through the chat and said 200 Egyptian pounds for the trip, which was like, 4 times the price and like 4 euros. So I stopped using Careem from that moment and used InDrive purely. Now InDrive was really great because I never paid more than the fee that was set in the app. I tipped the drivers sometimes, as I said, but even if I didn't want to, the drivers did not make a fuss about tipping. So the way InDrive works is that, like Uber Careem, for example, you put in your pickup point and your destination, and it will tell you what the expected fare is for that trip, giving you very reasonable prices as well. Like I say, in Hurghada, we were typically not paying more than, I'm not joking here, like 2 euros per trip, like 100 Egyptian pounds at most. In Cairo, a little bit more, typically, 3 to 4 euros, so 150, 200 Egyptian pounds, depending on where we're going. So it will tell you the price. You can adjust, you can put, this is the price I want to pay, so expect the trip to cost, 60 Egyptian pounds. Do you want to put 60 or do you want to put 70 or 75, whatever? You'll put that. Your request for a ride will essentially go out to all the drivers, and then you'll get a number of requests back. Someone might say, I'll take you for 75. Someone might say, I'll take you for 70. Someone else says, I'll take you for 80, whatever. And then you can pick which driver you go with based on, the offers that are coming your way. And as I say, that is the price that you're going to pay for your journey. You're not going to have any unexpected situations. There's also like a call emergency button in the app as well. And I was told by a friend of mine as well is that InDrive are very, very strict with their driver's code of conduct as well. And that's why you don't tend to have any problems with them. So that's why I suggest using InDrive for your trip to Egypt. Important for you to know when you're getting in a car in Egypt as well is that it is not for the faint-hearted. Last year I made a video about Venezuela and I said that in Caracas I'd seen hands down the craziest driving that I'd seen in my life, that it was definitely not a place I'd want to drive. Egypt now has that crown, honestly. It outdid Venezuela in so many ways. I've seen things that made my stomach drop like I was on a roller coaster. I've seen 4 or 5 cars trying to go down a 3-lane road at the same time. Honestly, the roads are complete chaos. Maybe I can even put a clip on right now just to show you like what to expect. And we're going to turn off the background music and put the audio from the clip here because this is just what the kind of crazy you'll see on the roads in Egypt, okay? All right, food in Egypt. Egyptian cuisine is fantastic. I definitely recommend trying it. Going to like a koshery restaurant, which is a local dish basically made with like beans, tomato sauce, pasta and noodles and lentils. It's fantastic, honestly. I really loved koshery. You got other Middle Eastern cuisine like Syrian, Lebanese that you can get. But you've also got, restaurants you can expect to find pretty much anywhere else in the world. Like fast food, like restaurants with meat and burgers, Italian restaurants, etc. And the food quality in restaurants, honestly, is very, very good. And compared to what you're probably used to paying if you're in Europe or North America, you'll be shocked by the prices. Honestly, the most that we paid in a restaurant in Egypt was 35 euros for 3 people. That's drinks, food, dessert, all included. And that was a high-end restaurant in Maadi as well. Really, really good place, but very, very affordable compared to what you'd pay in you know, the UK, the US, even Spain, whatever, like the prices are so much lower. And that's in Cairo as well. In Hurghada, we had a shopping center right next to the hotel, and honestly, we just decided to get dinner in there. And again, not kidding, we did not pay more than 4 to 6 euros per person every time we ate. And it was good, decent quality food as well. And so I tell you that not only to encourage you to get out there, try Egyptian food or other food and save money as well, but because a lot of hotels, particularly in the likes of Hurghada, Sharm el Sheikh as well, will offer all-inclusive, and it might be, you know, depending on the hotel, like $30 to $40 per person per night. And of course, for some people, that's fine. You know, you got a nice buffet, you got very good quality food as well that you can eat there. But if you don't want to try local food and save some money at the same time while you're doing it, I definitely encourage you to get out there and try some of the local restaurants that are around there. Street food, I understand why people are skeptical of it. You know, we were skeptical of street food as well. And when we did eat out, we really did try to choose like restaurants, you know, as I say, in a shopping center or in a food court or area where there is a lot of restaurants as well, because in the hope that hygiene and safety standards, of course, were up to scratch and weren't going to give us an upset stomach, essentially. All right, for those of you that have stayed for this point in the video, I'm going to give you a very special treat now, and I'm going to give you some basic Egyptian Arabic vocabulary that will help you through the trip in Egypt as well. Because what I definitely noticed as someone who does speak a conversational Egyptian Arabic, let's say, I've studied it for about 2 years, but trying to speak Arabic and conversing in Arabic, it got much better treatment, we got much better service, we got better prices when it came to negotiate. I was able to negotiate better as well. So, you know, just a few phrases or, you know, showing that you're making the effort can really go a long way in Egypt. And so I'm going to share with you now a number of phrases that I think will help you a lot. So I'm going to say the phrases in Arabic here, and I'm going to put on the bottom, I'm going to put the English, the Arabic phonetics, and the Arabic letters as well, so that you can see. So here we go. Sabah al-khair, Sabah al-khair, Sabah al-khair, to which someone will respond, Sabah al-nur, Sabah al-nur, Masa al-khair, Masa al-khair, and to which someone will respond, مساء النور, مساء النور. بتتكلم إنجليزي, بتتكلم إنجليزي. اسمك إيه, if it's a male, or اسمك إيه, if it's a female. This is useful particularly if you've ordered a taxi through the likes of InDrive and you want to check that the driver in front of you has the same name as in the app, and just make sure that it's the right person, basically. أيوة, أيوة, or لا, لا. شكرا, شكرا. لو سمحت, لو سمحت, لا شكرا, لا شكرا. خلاص, خلاص, مع السلامة, مع السلامة. So there you go, guys. I hope you found all the information in this video helpful and informative. As I say, Egypt is a fascinating destination. It's not the easiest to visit, but with proper planning, preparation, you can definitely make it a worthwhile and memorable trip. By the way, I've got a second video coming up as well on this trip to Egypt, talking a bit more about the experience of a resort style holiday in Hurghada, so do stay tuned for that. Leave a comment and let me know if you're planning to go to Egypt, or if you've been to Egypt, how was your experience? I'd really love to hear how it was for you and if you agree with what I've said in this video. If you like this video and you want to see more travel videos, for example, that trip to Venezuela that I did back in 2024, then be sure to check out these 2 videos here. The next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.